50 Cent has once again found himself at the center of an intense situation with Sean Diddy Combs. This time, it's not just words or social media jabs. It's something that has the potential to be much more serious. According to 50 Cent, Diddy sent him a very unusual message in the form of flowers during one of his club appearances in Miami. On the surface, it might look like a harmless gesture, but 50 Cent saw it differently. He claims that these flowers were not just flowers, they were a warning. Now, when you think about it, it does sound strange. Flowers are usually associated with love, condolences, or celebrations, not intimidation. But in this case, the timing, the delivery, and the person sending them changed the meaning entirely. 50 Cent shared pictures of the arrangement, and the flowers were massive, expensive-looking, and arranged in a way that made them impossible to ignore. They were delivered at 11 p.m., right during his club appearance, a time when flowers are not usually sent. Most flower deliveries happen between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m., and very rarely are they delivered late at night. This unusual timing raised eyebrows and led 50 Cent to believe there was more to the gesture than meets the eye. He didn't take it lightly. He laughed at first, but also questioned why someone like Diddy would send flowers late at night to a club. 50 Cent called it a warning, and for someone like him who came up in the 90s, warnings are not taken lightly. 50 Cent made it clear that he is 90s grimy, someone who doesn't respond to threats with fear, but with awareness and readiness. The idea of Diddy sending flowers to intimidate him seemed almost comical, but also slightly threatening. When you look at Diddy's past, he has always been about showing power, making sure people know where they stand, and sending subtle messages to those he feels have crossed him. This move fits a pattern of behavior for Diddy, one where he likes to assert dominance, even if it means sending confusing or unusual signals. The history between 50 Cent and Diddy adds layers to this situation. These are two of the biggest figures in the music industry, and they have crossed paths multiple times over the years. 50 Cent has been vocal about his perception of Diddy's actions, and he has always maintained that he is not someone who backs down. When 50 Cent received the flowers, it was not just about the physical gesture, it was about the message behind it. In his words, it seemed Diddy wanted to remind him that he could still get touched, implying that even though 50 Cent has survived and thrived in the industry, there are still threats that could come from Diddy or those associated with him. But why would Diddy do this now? 50 Cent recently released a Netflix documentary that has received massive attention worldwide. This documentary is not only a look at his life and career, but it also exposes certain truths about the music industry and its key players. Some believe that this documentary significantly affected Diddy's reputation, highlighting the differences between his business tactics and 50 Cent's approach to the industry. In this light, sending flowers could be seen as an attempt by Diddy to reassert himself, to make sure that everyone, including 50 Cent, knows he is still in the game, still powerful, and still not someone to be taken lightly. There are also discussions about the nature of these flowers. 50 Cent compared them to typical online flower arrangements from services like 1800 Flowers or Teleflora, pointing out that they can often look grand and impressive, but also somewhat generic or even humorous. He joked that the arrangement looked like a Thanksgiving funeral display, massive but slightly out of place. While others might see this as over-the-top or even comical, in 50 Cent's eyes, it was a sign that someone was trying to send a message without using words. The fact that these flowers were delivered during a high-profile club event added to the theatricality and the message it carried. It wasn't just about the flowers themselves, it was about making a statement publicly, in front of an audience, and making sure it was noticed. 50 Cent also mentioned that someone approached him and confirmed that the flowers were meant as a warning. He laughed at this, but also acknowledged that there was a tactic to remind him that Diddy still has influence. This aligns with Diddy's known behavior of showing power and control both publicly and privately. He has always been someone who wants people to know that he's not to be underestimated, and this move fits into that narrative. It is a mix of intimidation, display of wealth, and strategic messaging. But beyond the flowers, the situation highlights the differences in how 50 Cent and Diddy operate. 50 Cent has always been about transparency and action. He built his empire from the ground up, starting in the streets and moving into business ventures, including music, film, television, and now documentaries. His response to the flowers was not fear, but a combination of humor, awareness, and preparation. He understands the game, knows how to handle threats, and is always thinking ahead. On the other hand, Diddy is seen as someone who enjoys showing power, sending signals, and asserting dominance, sometimes in ways that can seem confusing or unnecessary. This clash in personalities and approaches makes interactions between them particularly interesting and at times tense. Adding more context, some people speculated that 50 Cent might have sent the flowers to himself as part of a strategy. However, this theory seems unlikely, given 50 Cent's understanding of media, legal protections, and journalistic ethics, especially regarding documentaries. If the flowers were fake or part of a scheme, it could potentially put 50 Cent at risk legally. He is savvy, experienced, and careful in his business moves. The idea that he would stage something that could compromise his documentary's credibility does not align with his track record. Instead, it seems clear that if Diddy did send these flowers, it was a calculated move to send a message to 50 Cent and anyone else watching. The stakes are high, not just in terms of personal pride or ego, but also in terms of industry influence. 50 Cent's recent documentary has been a major success, drawing millions of views globally and reinforcing his image as a smart, strategic, and resilient figure in entertainment. Diddy, despite his history and accomplishments, is now in a position where some of his power and influence are being questioned or challenged. Sending flowers as a warning could be seen as an attempt to reclaim some of that perceived power and to remind everyone that he is still relevant and dangerous if provoked. Beyond personal rivalry, there is also the backdrop of legal and public scrutiny. Diddy has faced challenges and investigations in the past, and any actions that appear threatening or aggressive could have serious consequences. 50 Cent, aware of these dynamics, understands that public gestures like this are not just personal, they can have legal, social, and industry implications. His response is measured, showing that while he acknowledges the warning, he's not intimidated and remains focused on his work and his empire. This situation also shows how public and private messages can mix in the world of celebrity and hip-hop. The flowers were delivered publicly, but the message was private, meant specifically for 50 Cent. This mix of spectacle and secrecy is a hallmark of high-profile feuds, where image, reputation, and messaging all play a critical role. Both 50 Cent and Diddy are aware of this, and their actions reflect a careful balance between showing power and maintaining control over their public image. Looking deeper, there's also the context of past incidents involving Diddy, such as the allegations of green-lighting attacks on other artists like Tupac and Biggie. While these are historical and controversial claims, they add a layer of intensity to the current situation. When 50 Cent perceives a gesture like flowers as a warning, it's informed by the history of aggressive actions in the hip-hop world, where signals, threats, and displays of power are often coded in subtle ways. For someone like 50 Cent, who has lived through the gritty realities of the streets and the industry, these signals cannot be ignored. Furthermore, the timing of the flowers, delivered during a high-profile event, can also be seen as Diddy demonstrating that he still has reach and influence. It's a calculated move to show that he can affect events and people even while operating behind the scenes. In the competitive world of music and entertainment, maintaining this perception of power is crucial. Whether it's sending flowers, making public statements, or controlling media narratives, Diddy's actions are often designed to reinforce his presence and influence. 50 Cent's response to this entire situation reflects his experience, intelligence, and awareness of the industry. He does not react impulsively or out of fear. Instead, he analyzes the situation, acknowledges the message, and positions himself strategically. By sharing the images of the flowers and commenting on their meaning, he controls the narrative, turning what could have been a threatening gesture into a public conversation that reinforces his persona as unshakable and savvy. The implications of this situation go beyond just 50 Cent and Diddy. It's a glimpse into the broader dynamics of power, influence, and reputation in the entertainment industry. Public gestures, private messages, and strategic communications are all tools used by powerful figures to maintain their standing and influence others. In this case, the flowers serve as both a personal message and a statement about power, control, and presence in the industry. The story also touches on the strategic moves 50 Cent has made recently, including partnerships and projects that further solidify his position. By producing successful documentaries and collaborating with influential figures in media, he strengthens his leverage and demonstrates that he is not just surviving, but thriving in an industry that has shifted significantly over the years. This context makes Diddy's gesture seem less effective and more like a desperate attempt to reassert dominance in a space where 50 Cent has already established significant control. As this story continues to unfold, it is clear that both 50 Cent and Diddy are operating on multiple levels: personal, professional, and public. Their actions are calculated, and each move carries weight. For fans and observers, this is not just about rivalry, it's about understanding how influence and power are wielded in high-stakes environments. The flowers are a symbol, but the real story is about strategy, awareness, and the constant game of influence in the entertainment industry. In conclusion, 50 Cent's account of receiving flowers from Diddy highlights a complex interplay of intimidation, strategy, and public messaging. While some may find it humorous or over the top, for those familiar with the industry and the histories of these two figures, it is a serious reminder of how power and influence are communicated. 50 Cent remains calm, aware, and strategic, showing that he is ready for whatever comes next. Diddy's gesture, whether seen as threatening or performative, underscores the continued tensions and the high stakes in a world where every action is scrutinized and every message carries potential consequences. As of now, 50 Cent continues to thrive, building his empire and producing content that resonates worldwide. Diddy, on the other hand, seems to be making moves that some may view as desperate or theatrical. The flowers may have been a warning, a message, or simply an eccentric gesture, but one thing is clear: 50 Cent is aware, prepared, and unshaken. The story is far from over, and the world will be watching as these two power players navigate the complex dynamics of rivalry, influence, and survival in the entertainment industry.